I remember there was this one kid
had a mouth on him, and he had it coming. I'm not a violent person, and I didn't ever partake in that, but he had it coming. He would always try to pick fights with people, and I just remember this one guy walked up to him and just punched him right in the back of his head. And that's dangerous. Like, I think there's like a spot on your head. If you do that, it can, concuss somebody or send them to the hospital. Luckily, he didn't, none of that happened to him. But I remember that same kid, he went to sleep, and I think if you've ever seen like Full Metal Jacket, you remember the scene where they put like I think it's like soap or locks in the socks, and they start beating on people. Well, they actually did that. I don't think they held him down. It was just like one guy, but he got like a sock, and he just like smacked him on the head really hard in the middle of the night. And that same kid, he went up to the receiving drill instructor, because there was a senior drill instructor. There was like different ranks of drill instructors, but he went to one of the drill instructors. He was like, they always punch me at night, they always like beat me up. Says that, and the drill instructor's like, well, it's because you never shut the fuck up. You just told him to go back in line. Like, he wasn't gonna open a report or anything. You just said it's because you don't shut up. They're supposed to report that, whatever. I mean, again, up for debate whether or not you believe he deserved it, but he would always try to pick fights with people, go up to them, just instigating. You can't do that. You'll get beat up. I don't want to be dramatic, but it's like prison a little bit, because you're no longer in regular boot camp. All right, let me get dramatic. Let me adjust my PR headset real quick, because I'm not used to this. Oh, it rocks back. Oh my god, that's... There's also something, it's a little bit not appropriate in nature, but they would you were not allowed to do anything sexual at all. If you were caught doing that, you were sent on a very bad discharge. You're gonna get in big trouble. So what people will do is they would get their bed sheets, put it over the rack, go to business, so to speak. I don't know how effective that was. I didn't really ever see anybody get in trouble for anything relating to that, but that was one kind of weird thing that people did. I forgot what they called it, like something tent. You can just leave it to the imagination what kind of names they came up with, but that was one thing they did. As for the tattoos, they would get their toothbrushes. I don't know how they built it, but toothbrushes, ink from a pen. I don't know how they got a needle or something that resembles that. All I know is they somehow made it happen. They would go to the head, sit on a chair, and one guy would just tattoo his initials on other people's bodies. I don't even know why they let some random guy put his initials on their body, but I guess they wanted some kind of relic or some kind of a souvenir for their experience. But it was like a legit tattoo. It wasn't like just pouring ink on their skin, like it was deep in there. And every night before you sleep, you have to do like an inspection where you raise your hands up, you like turn them like that, and then you turn around, and like you have to take your shirt off, and like you have to step on your shoes, because they have to like make sure that you're not hiding anything. Like if you have self-harm scars, if you have if your health is declining in one way or another, they have to inspect you and make sure that you're not hiding that. And so the drill instructor would go up and down the aisle just inspecting, and people would have those tattoos. Drill instructors knew what was up. They're not stupid, but they would still ask them. They would be like, did you get that before you came here? They would always say yes, and then you would just keep walking. They're not stupid. They knew that. They got that there. That was absurd. I don't know why anyone would have done that. It's pretty dangerous, actually, if you think about it. It's not sterile. They just use the same tattoo gun on everybody. They would take their hand sanitizer, and then they would get these little like packets. If you ever had like a school lunch or like a cafeteria type lunch where they give you the plastic sleeves that have the fork, the napkin, and the salt and pepper, well, they would take those from the receiving recruits, because when you first arrive at boot camp, you're given lunches like that, like just cheap lunches, and you get some of the plasticware. They would take like a crap ton of all those utensils, open it, and take the salt, and they would pour it in the hand sanitizer, and it would separate the gel from the alcohol. So, I mean, I don't know if that's still technically edible. I don't know why they would have drank that, but they would take one of the hand sanitizer containers, put it all in there, and they would drink it. I don't know if it actually ever did anything, but it's, pure alcohol. Alcohol made from hand sanitizer. Man, that's crazy. People are innovative.
Fair point.
No, we went out. We used to go to the boat, like go boating, like every weekend. So we saw dolphins pretty often, but we were out there, like my niece and nephew were there, my mom and dad, and we were out on the water, and we were like, oh my god, there's some dolphins. So we kind of like headed slowly that way towards the dolphins, and you know, they're like, what are they doing? They're like, are they fishing? What are they doing? And then like, just kind of see them roll, and you see like a dolphin penis, and you're like, oh. Oh, they're fucking. They're definitely fucking right now.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, alright.
Yeah. I think it was pink. I don't really remember all that well. It was pink and... Yeah.
Alright. I don't know what I would ever do with that information, but thanks.
You're so welcome.
Alright, there we go. It kept slipping off my head.
Probably on this
Nope.
cup.
Maybe 15 or 16. I was pretty young. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something that had to do with like engineering, and I thought that the best way to jumpstart that would be in the military. You know, I think that's kind of like a pretty common way to think when you're really young. Is, you know, the easy, not necessarily the easy path, but like the most obvious path can sometimes be just going to the military, because they'll cover a lot of things for you. I remember just being at the end of high school, wanted to join the military. I didn't even really know what branch, to be honest. That was something that I really only figured out a couple months before I talked to a recruiter. Not only just the obvious choice, but it kind of felt like also the only choice, because I just had no clue. I didn't know how college worked. I didn't know if I even wanted to do that. Inevitably, I would have had to for engineering, but going straight from high school to college was more the thing that intimidated me a lot. I was very average student. Like, I was in the 50th percentile, so I was, you know, by definition, I was an average student. I wasn't slacking off, but I also wasn't pushing myself, so I was just, like I said, I was kind of going with the flow. In reality, I really didn't know like a whole bunch about the military. You know, friends will, at least my friends, they would support me no matter what. But like the first like big reaction I got was telling my parents, I was like, I'm gonna do the Air Force. There's good benefits. And then it evolved to Army, and then eventually Marine Corps. They liked the Air Force, they didn't like the Army, and they really did not like the Marine Corps. It just kind of got like even worse as it went on. Well, the Air Force, you know, they're the safe branch. That's why they were like, oh, that's, you know, that's a good career choice. And then the Army, it's like, okay, you know, what do you want to go to the Army versus the Air Force for? I wanted to be like the best. Like, I wanted to impress them. I was like, oh, I might as well just go big. I just went on the website, I signed up. It was really that simple. And then he just gave me a call. And I remember being like in the living room and getting the call from the recruiter. And it's like, you know, gunnery sergeant, you know, whoever. And it just sounds like intimidating. It's like, wow, this is like legitimate, you know. And there's no, you know, there's no turning back now. Like, guy's gonna show up to the house, you know. She was in, God, I've forgotten all the terms. This all happened years ago. But I think not dress blues, but like the casual version of that. I sound like very ignorant, but he basically had the hat, you know, everything's buttoned up. Like, he looked, you know, official, and he shows up and he has all this like this little folder and takes us to the table, and he sets out like these little domino things, and he's like, or not dominoes, but like cards, and he's like, you know, pick the ones that you think align with you the most. And it's like the best ones were like a different color, so clearly you're gonna pick those. It's very obvious what you're supposed to pick, so it's like, I guess I'll pick these, you know. Then the rest was just like paperwork. The first meeting, I remember being like telling my mom, I was like, I don't know if I should do this, like, I don't know if this is what I really want to do. She's kind of telling me like, you know, I think it'll be a good fit for you, or whatever, you know, basic things that your mom will tell you. So I was like, you know, all right. I mean, that's when we set up the second meeting. So the first meeting was just talking to them, like setting everything up. Then the second meeting was when I enlisted. I just wanted to live up to my parents' expectations, because I was like, if I don't do this, then I'm just going to be, you know, maybe I'm just going to be stuck here, or maybe I'm just not going to do good in college. So I was like, the obvious choice is to do something as prestigious as the Marine Corps, and then, you know, from there I can, I guess, impress them. That's mainly what it was. I was going to these things called pool functions, where it's like they train you for boot camp, or they prepare you. It's not really like anywhere near as intense or even that similar to what you do in boot camp. You go there and it's just random things like the IST, which is like the test you have to do, or different exercise events, community service. And I did that for about a year. You know, I don't want to be so negative. I think that for a lot of people it helps them, well, first of all, it helps them get like a taste, basically, because they do like sort of yell at you. You know, I think it just varies from recruiting station to recruiting station. They definitely definitely like screamed at us, but it wasn't like, you know, like a drill instructor. Kind of gets you a little bit, the tiny little bit of taste of what to expect. For me, like the value I got out of it, probably not a lot. I mean, it did get me sort of in shape, but most of that was just me exercising on my own outside of those pool functions. And so going to these pool functions, I did feel out of place. Like I didn't see myself as a Marine. I mean, hell, I got a lot of imposter syndrome. You know, I'm not like an in shape guy. I'm a regular, you know, kid, 17-year-old kid. So I'm showing up to these pool functions. There's older guys there too. I forgot like the cap of enlistment, but I think it goes up to like 28 or something like that. So you had like older guys there, a lot of guys my age, obviously. These dudes are running this mile and a half way faster than I am, get a million pull-ups in, and I remember my first pool function. I showed up and it was a pull-up bar, and they created a circle around the pull-up bar, and I walk up to the pull-up bar. I couldn't even get one pull-up. I just held it, and then I like pulled myself up. Like I tried like just a little bit, and then I just let go. Couldn't do it. I wasn't in shape. It's very embarrassing. All those people staring at you, especially Marines, of all things, you can't even get a pull-up in. I want to make sure that I fit in. In boot camp, that's like the best thing you can be, in my opinion. It's just being average and fitting in. I mean, yes, excelling is definitely the best thing to do. But for me personally, because I knew I wasn't going to be honor Marine, so I was like, okay, I'm just going to fit in. I'm going to be the average guy that no one picks on, but no one is trying to like single me out. Some people, they love it. They're like, I can't wait to just get screamed at and roll around and shit, basically. And then the other half of people are like, God, I don't know, I don't think I could do that. And I was somewhere in between. Was it for me? Was it for my parents? You know, I didn't really know the reason why. It gives me structure, but it's also like, is that really what I want to do? When I was starting to get these deeper thoughts about everything, I was already, you know, in my head, I was already too far into it. Like, go to all these pool functions, and then everyone's hyped up, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna do it. At least within my family, I don't think that would fly that well. Like, they would probably been like, okay, why would you go through all this stuff and then just automatically quit? Or why would you know, waste all this time and resources? And it's just like, that's one thing that deterred me from just saying, okay, you know, I want to think over my decisions. You know, it's coming up, I'm really nervous, but, you know, I got to do it. It's already too late. I got to go out. You know, there are people that back out, but it wasn't even about, you know, the paperwork anymore. It's just about, how's my family going to react? How's my grandfather going to react? My girlfriend, how's she going to react? So a bunch of different things that just kept me in it.
If you leave me now, you'll take away the biggest part of me.
Her dad was a Marine, so she saw, you know, the good and the bad. And she was, you know, supportive, but she didn't want me to do it. One thing that really I do remember though was like the day before I had to ship out, I gave her a hug, she started crying, I was like, yeah, you know, I'm getting emotional too. I was like, dang, I'm really gonna leave all this, you know, behind. We are still together. It's through thick and thin. Boot camp prep is just like a pool function. For me, it was like a year. For some people, it was within a month. There's like certain bonuses you can get if you ship out within a month, quick ship bonus, but even that's not really guaranteed. I've seen some of your videos, the one where you're talking to the recruiter and he was like talking about how they lie, like, yeah, that's their job. So they say all this different things to get people to go in quicker without having to stick out in the pool function. But personally for me, it was like maybe like a year. So wake up, you know, I have a breakfast. I can't remember what it was, just something basic. Then we drive to the recruiting station. They take your picture, they put it on the Instagram. They're like, all right, he's shipping out, and then they put you in like the shuttle bus. So I get up, I say my goodbyes, get into the shuttle bus. So we drive like 3 hours, get into this hotel. You have your paperwork on you. It's the only thing you have. I think the Army and the Air Force, maybe Navy, they let you have your phone. The Marines don't. Like, they'll take it, but you're allowed to bring it with you to boot camp, and they'll confiscate it. Now I'm on my own without my phone. Never done this before. Very nervous. So I just had my paperwork on me, sitting there, fell asleep on the ride there. Boring, a lot of wait. And I know you've heard the saying, like, hurry up and wait. Common phrase in the military. Then they take you to the airport, where you go to the, I'm totally gonna mess up this name. It's like the something SO. It's like the military section of the airport. So we get on the plane, have our itineraries. You know, I had never even been to an airport. It's my first time on a plane. So I'm like confused. I don't even know what to do. So I'm just following the crowd, and there's like a bunch of people that, you know, they see that we're clearly recruits, and they'll like give you support. Or some people are like, don't do it. So they're like handing out brochures. They're like, you know, talking about a bunch of different military things and telling you either good luck or you could get out of it. Tell them, you know, all this and that. A mixture of like very supportive people of the military, and then anti-military people. It's really weird. I can't remember exactly what they were saying, but they were anti-military. They're like, give you like these brochures telling you of all these different things, like reasons why not to. They just hang around the airport. There wasn't like, protesters. It was just like people, like just regular people that are like, oh yeah, I have this brochure and here's the reasons why you shouldn't be in the military. And then the supportive ones are just, regular people that would walk by and be like, good luck guys, because they can see that you're in a group of people with paperwork and you're clearly going to boot camp. What I remember, because I didn't read it, but I did see people handing them out, and so I kind of saw like the general thing, but I think it had a lot to do with like the discharge. Like you can tell them no to your vaccine. If you did that, you'd get discharged. And I think I told you about the guy that denied the vaccine, and they made him go through entire boot camp. They make you do something at the very end of boot camp called the Reaper, I'm pretty sure, where you go up the steep hill with all your gear and stuff. He reached the top of that, and then they pulled him out and they discharged him. The Reaper, I think that's what it's called, the Reaper. It's been so long, but it was when we landed in San Diego that those people are everywhere, because they're right next to the military base. They see people in the military all the time, so it's naturally, I guess you'd have that crowd be attracted to you. Like you could literally see boot camp and people training right next to the airport, and vice versa. When you're in there, you can see the planes take off. Then you go to that military section of the airport where like these guys in suits, they're bald, clearly in the military in one way or another. They're stern, but they're not yelling yet. So they're like, all right, get in line. And then you pass through. And then from there, you're waiting on the, iconic white buses. If you've seen like the Marine footage where people are first arriving in boot camp, they arrive on these big white buses, kind of look like prison buses. They pull up to the airport and then they take you. I remember sitting in the bus and like the lights were on in the bus and then they went like it was this loud sound like the lights going out. It felt like I was in a movie. I was like, this is like really dramatic, like it's just lights, but you hear all of these noises and stuff and you see everybody, you see the guys that are ready, the guys that are nervous. You pull up in there and like you see all the different like equipment, like you see the God, what is it called? Like the big rock wall thing where you climb up, I didn't make it that far, so I didn't even get to, do any of that, so I don't know what it's called. You see all that as you're pulling in. It's like dark outside and it's just really dramatic. I think everybody was too scared to talk. Drill instructor gets on, he's like, you are now on MCR, gives a speech. You can look it up on YouTube. It's the same thing over and over again. They don't change it depending on who gets on there. Then the drill instructor steps off. You're running off the bus. You have guys that fall over and their paperwork falls down. It's just like, it's, in retrospect, it's like really, it's kind of a little bit funny, a little bit like over dramatic. They're just trying to get you ready. And so I didn't have any problem. Luckily, I didn't fall down. I just stepped on those yellow footprints and just did whatever they told me. They're just like, take a knee. Again, I'm going to sound really lousy describing this. Like, it's just been so long. But like, they tell you to take a knee, then you read the rules, like basically telling you all the stuff, the conduct and whatnot, don't do this, don't do that. This is, not allowed here. They dismissed row by row. And so then when your row gets in, you just step in. Then once we get in the building, I might be like mixing up like when things happen, because it's just so fast paced. You don't have time to think. Like you're just doing what they tell you to. You're doing exactly what they want you to do. You're just a drone. You're just going in there, following what they say and not thinking twice about it. So I think, what do they call it? It's something like your receiving days, which is what that is, are different than your actual training days. I forgot what they called it. But first receiving day, you don't get to sleep because all the jet lag and stuff, like they want to keep everybody on the same time zone. You get those micro sleeps where you're just like flashing out. That's like, a couple days. But in terms of like when you first walk in, you get the haircuts, hurt really bad. I was like, dang, like they're pulling my head back. Step up, get out. I remember just wanting to touch my head, and a lot of guys do that and they get yelled at for it. They're like, stop touching your head. Because like they're all like this, I can understand why they would want them to do that. Then they take you to a thing where like you put your head down and it's like, raise your hand if you have something you haven't said yet that you need to clear up. Like if you have something on your record that you didn't mention, if there's something, drugs, medical history. Those are the two big ones. Like smoked weed before you went there, because they're going to know if you did it either way. They're going to drug test you. If you have something on your medical history and you didn't mention it, they want you to say something about it. And I
can't really tell if it's a lie or not, but they're like, we got the FBI to look through all your background checks, so we'll know if you lied. I was like, yeah, they're not going to take all that time to do that. You know, the military in general cuts corners. So I was like, yeah, they're not doing that. They want everybody on the same sleep schedule, so it's just one thing after the next. They check your mouth, like all the dental stuff. It's like MEPS all over again, basically. But I just remember being so tired that when I had to like sit, and they make you sit in like these rows when you're waiting to get your first, I think it's like lunch or something, I would just like black out for like half second and wake up because you're so scared. You don't want to fall asleep. You're going to be the one guy that gets yelled at. So I was like, yeah, no. Didn't get to sleep. I remember just going through all the different processes of medical stuff. The first night is actually where everything went downhill because they figured out I shouldn't have been there because they give you these psych tests. I took it. I failed it. They call it adjustment disorder. There's a couple theories I have why they call it that. I haven't done, much research on it, so it's all just guessing. But I fill out that paperwork and they're like, no, you gotta go over here. And they separated me. So I was like, okay. I was wondering why. There's 3 different things that can happen. First of all, you can have something wrong with you, genuinely, and you get sent to the psych room. The second thing that'll happen is you think that the questions they ask you aren't necessarily going to get you discharged, so you answer truthfully, and then you get discharged. And the third is the people that want to get discharged, and they'll lie, and then they'll get sent out. I was just answering truthfully. I knew personally I had, issues. So I show up and I'm looking at the psych exam. I'm like, okay, well, I know that my family has a history of like mental health issues. And I know that is probably, all the stuff that I had, have been experiencing and feeling myself. Yeah, there very well could be something wrong with me. But I just answered it truthfully. And that got me discharged. I think some of them were like very basic things like, do you enjoy doing things that you like? Which is a, symptom of depression if you don't enjoy things you like. It was just a very wide array of different things they ask you to try to, figure out what's wrong. You take the psych exam, there's a couple more things you have to do, and now you're just segregated. So I was still in the regular squad bay with everybody. Then I woke up, then I was separated. I think it's really just, I think it's really different for everybody. As for how that went, they were telling me like all these different things, like asking me if my family members had, anything wrong with them. I was like, yeah, my mom, my sister, a lot of different family members. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have it, but it's just like, a bunch of different qualifying questions. Then they're like, okay, you have, adjustment disorder. I personally think it was more than that, but that's what they put on the paper. And the reason why I think they do that is because they don't want to deal with the paperwork for it. Like adjustment disorder, basically what it is just like, it's just a very broad term, just saying you mentally couldn't handle it. That's what it says, basically. And that is applied to many different people, not just for the reason I got discharged. So how did I feel personally about that? Well, yeah, like before then, there was a lot of like struggles I was going through personally. Like I said, I didn't really think twice when I was filling out that paperwork. But after that, it was kind of a retrospective look at myself. Like that was it. Done. I'm no longer in boot camp. Now I'm in separation. That's how quick it went down. They weed out people very fast. I think it might just depend on like the political climate, like if they need more people. Maybe like all that plays into like whether or not they'll take you in for certain things. But all I know is I was immediately separated. So this is the interesting part. There's not a lot about it on the internet. You can definitely find a lot of stuff, but I've never found people that like would talk in depth about this. But it's called Recruit Separation Platoon. That's where everybody goes for any reason at all, for being discharged. Any reason, you're sent there. It's just a big like squad bay full of people that get discharged for every reason, and you're there for as long as they want to keep you there. There's people that I know that were there for like 15 months. There's people that are there for a week. It was a big pot of different people for different reasons.
I got a job, finessed my way into a web design job without web design experience. Yeah, doing good. About to move again into a new place because this old place is about to run up.
All my life I had money and bitches. Isn't that what Kendrick Lamar says?
God, this guy just can't get any realer. Holy shit. Texas meetup, I'm telling you, we need to move to Texas. Texas has SeaWorld for Cody. It has Buc-ee's for Tino.
Hey, I catch any of you going to SeaWorld, I ain't speaking to y'all.
I don't support SeaWorld, cats.
Scientific aquariums, cool. SeaWorld, awful. I don't fuck with SeaWorld, I don't fuck with nobody who fucks with SeaWorld, I don't fuck with no SeaWorld.
Alright, we'll go to an aquarium. We'll go to the one in Louisiana because it's dope.
Go crazy.
Flopping like this. Look at this, me flopping.
Yeah.
The fish.
Flopping around like a, yeah,
Get
flopping around like
get
a
some fucking
fin.
tail action. Get some fin action.
Like, hey, just so you know, I'm not fucking like normal. I'm flopping right now. Flop. 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 Flop.
You know, I think you're a fucking cyber terrorist. If I just want to be honest with you.
Oh, I'm a terrorist because I'm Middle Eastern, huh? You fucking racist.
Cody, that's fucked up. You really had to draw that line, huh, Cody? We
You
went an
fucking
entire time without a
racist.
racial.
You fucking
without a-
racist. Because I'm Middle Eastern, you racist
this
fucking
is exactly why I
bitch.
don't open my fucking
You
mouth, dude.
stupid, yeah.
I have never been to prison. I don't know the first thing about what it's like. Again, for a layman like me, it was like prison. So you get there, you arrive there, they dump out your sea bag and they like take inventory of all your items. Then they give you a bunk. I was sent to my bunk. From there, you're in a squad bay full of like 60 people. I don't know if that's normal. I don't think it is actually. Like for a normal boot camp, it was anywhere between 40 to 60 people at a time in one big room, and you can just imagine how that was. It was very interesting, very different experience. Like there was characters for sure, like a couple people that had like quirks to them, so to speak. There was this one guy, he's like 7 feet tall, maybe taller than that, buff. Like I was skinny, like super skinny, and this guy, his biceps are like this big, like my torso. He was like a quiet guy, and he got discharged, I think, for not following orders. I don't know if that's like, officially what it's called, but he wouldn't listen to the drill instructors, and they were all scared of him. They would not tell him no. If he wanted to leave the squad bay, he would just get up and go, and they would like, come back in here, and like he just wouldn't do it. He would just go out there and then sit on a bench that was outside. He did his own thing. This dude was crazy, but he was nice. He didn't care for the drill instructors, he didn't care for the officers, he didn't care for the annoying people. Which brings me to another guy who went into the shower. He brought a camp stool in the shower, then shat on it, then left. And again, it's like prison. You can't just go around doing that. That bathroom is everybody else's as much as it is yours. That big guy, he grabs a camp stool and he throws it at that kid. And I don't think it knocked him out or anything, but you don't want to get a camp stool thrown at you by someone like that. Drill instructors, a lot of them, at least the ones that were in RSP, didn't want to be there. They didn't even want to be drill instructors, and they would say that. They're like, I'm just doing this shitty assignment because I have to. Like, they hate their jobs, so they're not going to care to intervene unless they know it's going to affect them somehow. Like, if they know an officer is going to be nearby, or if they know that they're somehow being monitored, they're not going to step in and do anything about it. At least the ones that were there. You got in a fight, they would just tell you to stop. That's it. They wouldn't try to go in there and pull you apart. Yeah, so the RSP, you wake up, I think a little bit before like regular boot camp. So I think it's at 3 a.m. you wake up. You go eat breakfast. Again, it's like very similar, if not the exact same, at how regular squad bay does it. You line up, you get your food. Actually, interestingly enough, we were allowed to eat whatever we wanted, as opposed to a regular squad bay where they force you to. Well, they don't force you. It's like a manipulation thing. Like they have all the food set out, but if you pick the wrong things, like if you get a cookie or a brownie, then they'll start yelling at you, or they'll put more of it on your plate. One of the more funnier things I saw was a drill instructor. You had a plate of food, and this guy gets like a cookie or something, and that drill instructor, he grabs like a bottle of chocolate syrup and just dumps it all over his plate, over everything. He starts getting sprinkles and he puts it all over his food. That happens if you're in a regular platoon. For us, we were, the dropouts, so we could get whatever we wanted. For some reason, there's an ice cream machine there. I think it's because employees also eat there. It's not like only recruits, so there was like stuff that you wouldn't really expect to be available for recruits to eat. But there's kind of like an unwritten rule of what you can and can't eat. So we would go there, we would grab the food, eat. You get like 5 minutes or less. Get up, go back to the squad bay. Then throughout the entire day, you're just sitting in that squad bay. Interestingly enough, they did have a TV in there where we could like watch movies. That got taken away nearly the entire time though. Kind of like we're being babysitted or whatever. Like if you're good, you could have this TV. So sometimes they would, but a lot of fights, I'm telling you, like fight happened like every day. So it was like barely ever got to see that. They would just unplug it out of the wall and they would just toss it into the other squad bay right next to it. It was an empty squad bay. Yeah, just the phone calls, that's all you really had to look forward to, if not going home. You get, a bunch of guys in one place, you get 60 different guys in one place. Something's gonna happen every day. So think of like a bunk bed, right? Just think of like, this is the room, this table's a room. Bunk beds, bunk beds, bunk beds. Like a bunch of different like bunk beds in rows. And then you have like the front area, which is called the quarter deck. And then you have like the duty hut, I think it's what it's called, where the drill instructor sleeps. Think of like, I guess, a summer camp, I guess is like the best thing I can think of. I would just be next to my bed, but you're not doing anything fun. You're just sitting down, either getting yelled at or getting sent off to do working parties. And then there's a back area too, where there's like a library, I guess, if you want to read. Occasionally they'll come in and they'll be like, we need a group of people to come on a working party. And they would literally just make you do things like around the base, just random things like come sort these plates of armor, come do this paperwork, you know, like basically just putting you to work. And to my knowledge, I think they still make you do that if you're in a regular platoon. Like if you're still with training in boot camp, I think towards the end of boot camp, they make you do that. But for us, it was just around the clock. Like we would go do things around the base. I don't really know how much you know about like boot camp just for the Marines in general, but like when you first get there, you're put in these like red cubbies where they like look through your stuff to make sure you don't have contraband. And there's like these telephones we call home. We went back to that room like when you first get discharged, and you have the phone. They tell you your parents, but you can really just call whoever, you know, is back home, and you tell them why you got discharged. So I was like, great, now I'm gonna have to tell my parents. So get the phone up and I'm like, hey, I'm getting discharged. I can't remember if I purposely didn't say why I did, but I just remember I said I got discharged. I'll probably be home, you know, in a couple months. And then I just remember my mom just being like, you know, kind of at a loss for words. That first conversation was very disappointing. It was only a couple, like maybe 20 seconds long. Then I just hung up. I remember I had to tell one by one, you know, eventually my next phone call I got, I told my best friend, known him for so long, like most of my life. I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm coming home, just so you know. And he was like, dude, like what happened? You know, you don't get a lot of time on the phone. I think you get like a minute, or maybe it was 5 minutes for like a regular day, and then 15 minutes on holidays. But I remember just telling him, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come home. I really wanted to hide the reason why. I've never been an open person, you know, about mental health stuff. So I just didn't say why. Then I call my girlfriend, tell her, she's, you know, shocked. But I did tell her why. I was like, yeah, I'm coming home. You know, they diagnosed me, you know, apparently, so I'm coming home. I remember hearing like a bunch of guys next to me. They would pick up the phone. Some of them would be like, you know, very candid, like, okay, yeah, I'll be back. Some guys would break down crying. Like, I guess the guys that had like military families that like, it's less of like a one-off thing and more of like a requirement. You have to be in the military because I was. And these dudes would literally start break down crying. Doesn't matter how old or big they were, just in front of those phones. We were allowed occasional like phone calls, like if there wasn't any like, you know, things happening in the squad bay, like people acting up, they would like tell us, okay, whatever, you can phone home, you know, once every week or so. Some guys with their, you know, kids and their wives, they would just have normal conversations. Some guys, again, would just burst out crying. I don't really know why. You can't really hear what they talk about, but, you know, it's like, God, you know, I wonder what those guys are going through. I thought I had it bad, but then you see these dudes, you know, everybody has their story, why they're there and what they can expect to see when they get home. I remember this one guy, he's one of my good friends, and he actually doesn't live that far from me in real life. He got discharged because of the Red Cross, which means he had a family member that died, and you can choose whether or not you want to be discharged. He was telling me, he was like, when I went to the RLS interview, you know, the guy was just yelling at me, telling me I'm a quitter and that my dead uncle would not have liked that I'm, you know, leaving boot camp. It's like a bunch of, you know, they're Marines. They're going to say stuff like that, but still, it doesn't make it hurt any less. I made one good friend. He got discharged from medical fraud. He had something relating to depression that he had that he didn't remember, like some kind of medication that they found when they looked through his background. So me and him were, you know, good friends. I don't think he necessarily lied. He's a pretty, you know, this is just my assumption, he's a pretty honest guy. I think he just forgot because it was so long ago. Again, I don't know if this is exactly true or not, but they would say like, even if you were like, you know, 2 years old, if there was something wrong with you, then you have to list it. Like I said, he had a history, so they found out. We're both quiet. I think it's just like, when you get two quiet people next to each other, you know, you can tell when someone's a quiet person. And if you're a quiet person yourself, you know, like that's, you know, that's my guy. Yeah, we just started talking. I still keep in contact with him to this day. If you're curious, I have him on some social medias and stuff, and some other people I knew there too. We would just talk, pass the time, have each other's back, because it is a hard time. There's a lot of guys in there that just want to be a problem. Like they'll take your stuff. Like I remember we had to put locks on our stuff because they'll steal your money, and they would also steal your pillowcases, interestingly enough, because your pillowcases, again, this could just be a lie, but they told us that they were like $80. I highly doubt that, but they said there are $80 pillowcases. If you lose it,
$80 is coming out of your paycheck. So I remember I would just take my pillowcase off, stuff it in my sea bag, and lock it up. Like, I'm not gonna pay $80 for a pillowcase. You kidding me? The day I left, actually, just rewinding a slight bit, my best friend in there, he left like a week before I did. So I was like, great, now, you know, the one guy I talked to's gone already. I had a little group that I like migrated to after that like they were like kind of like acquaintances. So I would just stay with them, but they also left earlier than I did. So I was just there for a couple of days, you know, none of my friends. The day I left specifically, I remember you have a little sheet. It's called your recruit Bible, and it's where you get all your signatures for all your different steps. You have like different people that sign it. Once that sheet is complete, then you're allowed to go. So I had all my signatures. Then you just get your itinerary. You're sent back to that room with all the telephones and stuff, where like there was this lady and she was just reading over. She's like, make sure your information's correct. You have to have somebody pick you up. Like, you're not allowed to leave unless you put somebody down on that piece of paper. And they're like, ideally it's gonna be your parents, ideally it'll be a wife or somebody. You just have to have somebody or you ain't leaving. But after that's in check, then one of the drill instructors, they'll drive you to the airport, like in just this regular van. They're still in their uniform and everything with their hats and whatnot. Drive you over to the airport, and I remember you have all your stuff already packed up. Everything's already done, like everything. So you're in they call them your civvies, so your civilian clothing. You go to the quarter deck, you line up, and I remember he handed me the paperwork. And I remember for I think a couple people, he would stretch his arm out, hold the paperwork, and then he would just drop it. So like hit the ground. I mean, he was just kidding. Like, a lot of drill instructors are not bad people. He was really strict, but you could tell, like, outside of the military, he's probably a cool guy. Most of them, that's just their job. But as he was driving us to the airport, he's basically just telling us it's not the end. A lot of people don't even want to be here anyways. Just saying it's not the end all be all to be in the military. And I know that's, you know, obviously that's what you're going to say, no matter what, probably. But, different people are there for different reasons. Some people wanted to be there, some people didn't. But I think as a general thing to say, it's kind of one of the best things you can say. It's just not the end. Then you dropped us off. Now that's pretty much it. Again, this was like the first couple times I had ever been at an airport, so I'm all there alone. I don't even have a phone. First challenge that I'm gonna have to tackle is how am I even gonna communicate with, you know, my parents, let them know I'm coming back if I don't even have a phone. I think one of the guys that was getting discharged with me at the same time, like, dropped off. He let me borrow his phone, so I think I called my parents on there. I was like, look, you know, in the next however many hours I'm gonna be back. Again, you only get very few phone calls, so it's like there's only like 2 or 3 phone calls between them knowing you're discharged and now you're about to be home in a couple hours. Get on the plane, then I land, and then I'm just walking to the airport, and like everything just feels weird. It's like a dream. It's like, God, I shouldn't even be here right now. Like I said, this is when things get hard, because now the military stuff's done. Now you have to reap the consequences of being back home. So I get picked up, and it's just awkward. It's just like nobody's really saying much. You know, it's my mom and my dad. I'm just sitting in the back of the car, and they're just like asking me the occasional question. It's just quiet. It's like meeting your parents for the first time. It's a weird thing. I didn't really get a chance to like explain myself. Like, at this point, everybody in my family knew. They gave my friends told their family, you know, my girlfriend told her family. It's like basically walking on stage like naked. Yeah, you know, no one's gonna sit there and hypothesize and try to figure out the good reasons why things happen. The relationship between me and my parents is very complicated, because I think they're supportive parents, but there's a lot that they don't. There's a lot that they do and they don't do. I think maybe that's a little bit broad, but in terms of like support, like emotional support, I don't think they're very like skilled in that. Like, I don't think they knew what to do. So they're, you know, maybe it came across as a little bit insensitive to me. And, you know, now I've had years and years to think about all of this. Looking back, I felt, you know, a little bit neglected, like a different person that just happened to be in, you know, my former self's body. There's still like a feeling that things could have been addressed and figured out a little bit better. I would get nightmares about going back there just so I can go through with it again. Boot camp itself is not like, you know, when you get home and all that disappointment sets in, then you're like, okay, now I'm starting to get nightmares about going back there so that way I don't have to feel this way anymore around my family. Okay, well now I've just cut off a big option for myself. Probably permanently. It's not just that, but it's also now I'm a dropout. I'm a boot camp dropout. It is like the worst thing to a veteran or to an active service member. That's like the worst thing you can be, is a boot camp dropout. Obviously, there's other things that are worse than that, but just in terms of like still being a good person, that's like the worst kind of person you are. They've sure let us know that when we were there. And even when I got home, it was just awkward. Like now, my parents have to say that their son dropped out of boot camp. It's not a good look. My parents only gave me a week. It was the same week that I got home, was the same week that I was already gonna be in my first semester of college and getting a job. It was either you do it now or you don't ever do it. You know, they were very adamant about that. Regardless, I would have gotten a job. College was like really the bigger thing. It's like, okay, well, I don't even know how to do it. I don't know anything about college. Like I told you earlier, I was like completely clueless how all that went down, and now I have to figure it out in, a week. I don't even think the week was up before I had already gotten an interview for a job and was in my local community college. A mixture of that, like the college stuff and the job stuff, is also damage control. With like just having to explain myself to everybody. It's like I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to explain to people why I was back. At the very least, if you're discharged for like Red Cross or if you're discharged for understandable reason, it's a little bit easier. But if you're discharged for a reason like me, where it's like, okay, where does this information come from? Or are you just bullshitting? Trying to explain myself while simultaneously not give enough information because I'm not an open person. I didn't want to talk to people about it. It's a hard thing to do. And that really complicated things, not just between me and my family, but my relationship as well. Complicated it a lot. We're not necessarily like a what's it called? It's gonna sound bad, but not like a close family. We're a family, but we're not like, we don't open up to each other a lot. So it's like kind of they were just acting like nothing happened. And that's maybe a bad thing because then it's left up to their interpretation. And they told everybody this part, like a very personal part about my life that I don't open up about. That's now public to everybody that I know. But now it's less about should I get help versus am I able to afford it? And is the time going to permit for it? Is kind of what it's come down to. It's like therapy is not cheap. I don't get insurance for my job because I work part-time because of college. So do I need it though? Yes, I definitely think I do. And it's something that later in my life I'm definitely going to prioritize more and that I really should now. But so in total, I was in and out of boot camp exactly a month. November 8th to December 8th. Yeah, just living in that squad bay for a month. A very monotonous way of life living in the RSP, or the recruit separation platoon. They would jokingly call it the recruit sniper platoon. It was a joke because when you go home and you get discharged, obviously everyone's going to be disappointed in you. So you're like, no, I was in the recruit sniper platoon. So I guess that was like the joke that some people would tell themselves, to make themselves feel better about it. I personally did not say that, but there's 3 different stages that you go through, and actually I have a notebook that I would write in for each one of the days I stayed in. Let me go ahead and grab that because I think there's some information in there that I can use.
I feel like Moxie would eat alcohol ice cream. that beat has gone for so long and I'm not even sure if it's true. It has been a bit rough. I'm currently ending the semester. I'm on the last year of studying at the university, getting my bachelor's. Is it bachelor's degree? Because if you apply for it, then you get you don't get drafted for another 2 years. While you study, you're not. You don't have to go to mandatory military service. Just armies, and war is really scary for me as a concept. People killing each other for nothing. I guess territories, resources, but there is always trading and speaking. I talk like an infant right now because I'm not I don't like politics and stuff and all of that. I'm not really good at that, but war is bad. That's the moral.
Don't.
Look at this hamburger with a gun. Look at this.
What? Oh.
Oh my god, it's Fries with an AR.
Hi,
Mr. Fries. Why don't you sign up for the U.S. Navy?
we're all out.
No.
Sorry. Oopsie.
He doesn't work here.
That's
Why
not
is he
true.
behind the till?
Huh?
Why is he behind the till?
Nepotism.
I have to babysit him.
Nepotism.
Nepotism, you
do you
glad I
guys-
didn't say banana?
Why do you keep... Can I have an ice cream?
Let me check. No, the machine's broken.
Can I ask for him to be fried and turned into a burger?
Time has come. Let's go.
The knife worked. Usually it doesn't.
Burger.
Like you're in pain.
You glad I didn't say banana?
Holy shit.
Okay, I'm going to test out another joke here. What comes to mind if I ask your thoughts on love that continuously needs to be re-earned?
This is a joke?
I'm working on my punchlines.
I think, so the joke is that, love's scary and complicated, and people have different definitions of love. And, again, that it's scary. I think, going off of love being complicated, if it's constantly being re-earned, that would imply that maybe it... Fuck, can I change my answer? I think that love is so complicated because there's times where I don't feel like I love my mom, but I still love my mom. And there's times where I didn't love one person and then I ended up loving them back, in like a year. And I think that there's different kinds of love. There's not one kind of love. So, there is certain kinds of love. I think it is so complex that if you have somebody that you love that they keep making mistakes to break your trust or break your love or break your caring nature or anything like that, you can still love them but not the same kind of love, if that makes sense. I have a completely different love for my mom than for, let's say, my boyfriend, and I have a completely different love for people who have hurt me in the past or dead people. So I think that it's part of life for people to break your trust and break your love, but you don't necessarily, that wouldn't leave you with the same love that you had for them. It would change your love. Can I have a Filet-O-Fish?
I cried a tear. I did try.
I don't know if you can even hear the pages. This is a very small, stiff notebook. I was actually gonna burn that notebook. I was like, I'm not an open person. This is totally not like me. I don't want this, floating around somewhere. I don't even know why I still have this stuff, to be honest. I have that notebook. I have the papers that the psychiatrist gave me, which I think just gave me like a general information about, whatever. It wasn't anything that interesting. And then a mask we had to wear, because this was all during COVID. I think some guys also did journal writing, but it wasn't as common. I was a quiet person, so that was, what a quiet person does. You write in your notebook. A lot of technical things, like the kind of slang words that the Marines use that you also by extension will have to use whenever you're in there. Like we called the bathroom the head, your bed's a rack, small details like that. And then a lot more in depth about just the discharge process in general, like each individual step. It's nearly impossible to find online. But the other more social people, at least 80% of the people that were in there would just talk with other people. Maybe didn't even have the same perspective about the whole situation as I did. So, didn't feel the need to write, maybe. There's a lot of hearsay and rumors about like what you do and what step, but for the most part, they don't even tell you. It's just a 3-letter acronym, 4-letter acronym on the board, and all you know is that one day you're just gonna get pulled out to go there. I mean, you don't even know where you're going. All you know is your name is on a board and it's on one of those steps. I would ask around, but I would hear different things. It's like you never really got a solid answer or idea what to expect. For the most part, everybody had a different story. You're just wondering what you're gonna be sent to next. You arrive there, there's a whiteboard in the front. So when you first walk in, they'll put your name on that whiteboard, and it's separated into the RLS, the support battalion, RTR, and SEPs. And so each of those are the different stages of getting discharged. First step that you go to is the RLS interview, and it took me 20 days. 20 out of the 30-something days I was there. So the last couple entries of that notebook are just me explaining all the different steps, because I took so long to do it, and then boom, just all happened at once basically. That's when you go into, can't remember if it's an officer or a sergeant, but you go there with your paperwork, you give it to him, he reads over it, your discharge, makes a couple snarky comments about it, asks you questions about your recruiter, if your recruiter prepared you for boot camp, technical questions about your discharge. And so it's called an interview, but it's really more like you're giving information for him to fill out. After RLS, you go to support battalion, and that's the only step that I couldn't really find a lot about, but I did see that I had wrote something about a quality control interview, where they basically ask you questions about RSP. They're like, did they treat you good? Did they feed you? Just a survey, just to make sure, I guess, they're doing their job, the drill instructors that oversee RSP. But regardless, they send officers every couple weeks or so, and they'll come in and they'll inspect the entire squad bay. And I remember one time we got these stamps. One of the very first things you do when you arrive at boot camp and you finally get in the squad bay is you get this stamp and you're supposed to put your name. Well, we still had that. The kids, they would get that, they would take all the letters off of it and write a bunch of, offensive things or silly things, and they would just stamp it all over the squad bay. I remember one was like anime thick thighs. It's just, things like that. It would just be stamped all over the squad bay, all over the racks and stuff. And it's funny. It's funny until the officers come, they see that, and they're like, okay, the inspection fails. And that falls onto the drill instructor. If you piss off drill instructor, you're gonna reap the consequences of that. So I remember he took us all to the quarter deck, which is the front area of the squad bay, and he was like, you're gonna scrub every single one of these stamps off. We didn't have cleaning materials. We're expected to figure out how to do it. So remember, I took toothpaste and hand sanitizer, I mixed it together. I forgot what I used to exactly scrub with. I think it was just one of the scuzz brushes, but we would just scrub and scrub and scrub, and it took 2 minutes a piece for each stamp. And mind you, there was probably maybe at most 300 different stamps. It wasn't fun, especially the ones they put on the ceiling inside the bathroom or the head, difficult to scrub out. That was a whole day or two of a project. Didn't stop people, they still stamped it. Right after that, just gave them a new canvas to put whatever other shit they wanted to put on there. So after I did that support battalion interview, then I had to do RTR. It's a lot more formal. It's finally a break from all the chaos, and they take you into this room with this guy, another sergeant, I think, and he would hand out these packets of paperwork, and it was if you feel like you got discharged for an unfair reason, you could contest it and take it to court, or if you're not going to do that, then you can put your signature somewhere that basically says you can't take them to court. And they really pushed for that. If I remember, they try to make everybody sign that because they don't want to deal with that. Sign all that paperwork confirming the legal side of your discharge, and that's really it. There's a lot of waiting. Went to this office area, sat down, waited 2-3 hours before we actually got to go in there and do that at most 20-25 minute process. They really do take their time. Lastly, with SEPs, you just get your itinerary, get the last couple signatures on your recruit Bible, and then you're out. Because they just drop you at the airport. From there, you're on your own now. You're completely done with the military. So if you wanted to, you could just go wherever you wanted. Go to downtown San Diego for all anybody cared. Once you're out of there, you're out of there. So the last couple pages of that notebook was just basically me saying now I'm in SEPs, I'm gonna leave. The minute I left there, that was it. Didn't write in the notebook anymore. I wish I knew what these acronyms meant, but I don't. We just called it RTR and SEPs and RLS, all that different stuff. All these different steps I've just listed, RLS, interview, support battalion, RTR, all these steps, once your name is put on that step on the board, then they give you this tentative schedule as to when you're actually going to go help them with the paperwork. But until that happens, you're doing working parties, which is you're going around MCRD just doing random things, which is a really interesting thing that we can talk about. That, or you're just sitting around doing nothing. nothing. It's very boring. You're either doing your paperwork at a working party or you're just sitting around. The working parties, okay. So one of them specifically was sorting armor plates and sorting helmets and stuff. It's actually kind of cool because I had never seen armor in person before. There's these heavy plates. I don't play Warzone, but I know that there's this like feature where you can like put an armor plate inside your, it's like that. It's not like an actual body armor, but it's just these plates and you just organize them. You put them on this big tarp and you organize them. And then at the very end, the guy that's in charge inventories all that. And it's just inventorying random things, clothing items, armor like that, canteens. That was a big one that we really did. We had to stand them up individually. And some of these canteens were from Vietnam. Kid you not. I looked at the date, it was like 1960 something, 1970s, and they don't wash them out. They put a little bit of water in there, they swish it around, they dump it out, and the water tastes moldy. I mean, what more can you expect? It's the Marine Corps. You kind of know this kind of stuff when you're getting into it. Another one that I never had to do was issuing clothing to new recruits that are coming in. These recruits arrive like in the middle of the night, so they would just wake you up and send you out. Have any of the Marines you've talked to, have you heard them talk about like Firewatch? It's a thing they do not just in boot camp, but just anytime you're deployed somewhere. There's this like clipboard where they document everybody's names. Each hour of the night, at least 2 people are awake watching the hatch or the door and then watching the back door just to ensure that nobody goes in and out, while people are sleeping. And so it cycles like shifts basically. That was like not really a working party, but another kind of thing we did. If you were lucky, you would get like the first hour of the night so you could just get it over with and then go to bed. If you're really unlucky, you get the last hour of the night. It just feels longer, even though it's the same amount of time. It just feels longer. Another working party. Now this is the crazy one. It's the RAB working parties. They'll send you to an office, right, with these third party's kind of like a over technical term, but just like these people that come onto base that aren't in the military, but they work for the military, so they're contracted to work there. You're basically sent to that office and you are handed sensitive information, people's enlistment papers, all their insurance information, their social security numbers, their addresses, all their family members' names. They just hand you a big packet of just the recruit's information and you have to file it away, basically. You could just take one of those pages out and throw it away or do something with it, or change some of the information on the paperwork. They don't check it. They just give you the packet. They say, all right, document it in here. There's nobody watching you. It's crazy. Like I saw people's, I think it's like if you die during boot camp, like your beneficiary gets like anywhere between like 250,000 to 400,000 USD. And you could just easily change your information. I'm sure maybe they have to check over it again at some point. But like you could just pull someone's social security number. We were allowed to carry, I don't know if we were necessarily allowed, but we did carry like our notebook and our pen and stuff. And so we could just take that out and write that information down real quick. So you could have just stole someone's identity. And there's a lot of bad people that get discharged. So I don't know why they were in charge of that paperwork, but that's the RAB working party. You're obviously not supposed to do that, but you can do that. It's very easy. It's just a bunch of, Marine Corps dropouts in a big office full of sensitive information. You can do whatever you want with it. No one's watching. What makes up most of the notebook is just like me saying like things I want to do when I get back home, personal letters to people, but I'm not actually, giving them the letter, but it's kind of like a hypothetical letter, I guess you could say. I don't really know a good word for it. The letters were written as if I was actually going to send it to them. So, you had like the header of the letter. I would address them by their name, just things that I missed about them, things that I wanted to do. Because, you're just sitting in that squad bay for hours on end. The only thing you have to do is think about, all the things that you want to do with them, stuff like that. One in particular, it was addressed to my parents, how I felt about like my relationship with my parents and then this whole situation. For a long time I tried to blame them about it. Like I felt pressured into doing this. I was just trying to live up to expectations. I really should have never done it, but you guys pressured me. So it's like stuff like that. But looking back at it, it's like, yeah, that's just maybe there's a little sprinkle of truth in that, but it's just kind of like a window into the past. And then some of the other letters I did were to my girlfriend. Obviously, I missed her a lot. Just a typical love letter, nothing special. Just a basic, yeah, let's find it. Let's see. That one's to my sister. That's another one I did. That one's to my dog, and that's pretty corny. Statement. Yeah, okay, here we go. This is like the opening statement. I said, as you told me before I left, we both look at the same moon. So basically just saying like, when you look up to the moon, she's looking at it as well. There's one of our romantic lines, I guess. There hasn't been a second I haven't thought about you. I miss your TikToks and your dog, even though I don't like your dog. I know that sounds mean, but I'm not really a dog person. She knows that. Can't wait to see you when I get home. There's a lot of stuff I want to do with you, so just sort of, you know, basic love letter. My dog, she was like my childhood dog, so, you know, like this is just a little bit different. I love animals, but I'm not like an animal person. Saying I don't like your dog is a pretty strong word, but just more like I can't like it, just because I can't like any other dog. It's nothing personal to that dog. Yeah, let's pull this out. It's actually right after the one. Said you're the best dog. You are the best dog. Sorry, this is hard to read. I was just scratching this in here. You're the best dog / pet I'll ever have. Your health is rapidly declining, but I know you'll be okay. All I ask is that you allow me to see you one last time before you pass away. You are a pure and innocent soul, and I love you so much. You'll be the first one I hug when I arrive home. Be safe, take care of my family. So she was like maybe 15 years old. She actually passed away the following year, which was only me a couple of months because I got home in December. I think she passed away in May. Yeah, I miss her a lot. Her name was Cam. It was actually, the full name was Cammy Joe. It's a really weird name. She was, you know, good dog, quiet dog, which is, you know, my preference. Yeah, 15. I think she was 15 years old when she passed away. I moved a lot. Like, I would jump from city to city growing up. I never stayed in one place, but she was that constant. So I guess that's like kind of the broad good memory that I have. It's just her always being there for me, you know?
I don't know. Do you know who Future is? Who the fuck is Future? Like, I'm sorry, I don't know.
You never heard like Metro Boomin make you boom?
You've never heard the name.
I've never heard of Future until last night when my roommates were blasting his music because his new album came out, and I was like, oh, what's this? And they were like, a new Future album, and I was like, who's that? And they were like, you don't know? And I was like, nope. And they were like, okay. And so I was like, cool. And that was the end of the conversation. It wasn't really that deep. It really wasn't that deep.
They didn't want to explain it to you. They didn't want to go through the effort, so they just said, okay.
In middle school, that's when I learned the concept of popularity. And I remember there was these girls who I was friends with growing up, like ever since I was like 3 years old. And middle school, I really wasn't cool. I was definitely a nerd. You know how like they played like that game where they put like a name on your hand, and you have to like not look at it the entire day, and if you do, you have to ask them out. I was one of the people who like they put on the hand. It was really awkward. These girls that I grew up with, they one day in like I think it was like 7th grade, were like, hey, so you're not cool enough, so we're gonna go sit with these popular people at lunch now. And I was like, oh wait, so you aren't gonna sit with me at lunch anymore? And they're like, no, we want to go sit with them because they're like just cooler. And I was like, oh, okay. And so that hurt. So that's how like I learned how popularity was. And so there was this other girl who I thought was weird, who I was friends with, but I don't know, she was just like a nerd. And there was one point where I think she was talking about like mites or something. We were at our lockers and she was talking about like something like gross. And I just turned to her and I was like, you are so gross. That is so weird. And I just walked away and like slammed my locker door. Apparently, she got so upset. Like it just ended our friendship right there. And I felt really bad afterwards, but that was like the meanest I was ever to someone in school. Because I was like, you are not, like, it's like in my head I was like, I can't associate with this person anymore. She's just not popular. I need to be popular. And that was middle school. I was just like obsessed with this like popularity mindset because my friends were obsessed with it.
That's kind of a bummer ending to the school saga story. Is that what a bully is to you? Like, is that how a bully acts in your opinion?
Oh, yes. I was being mean to that girl. I bullied her. If my dad hadn't died, and I know this is like weird, I would have been such a spoiled brat. I feel like my dad dying made me like just like have more just concept for the world.
Yeah, now you're this.
Now
you're hanging out with me.
Thanks, Lauren's dad.
Thank you for dying.
A part of your character development should be listening to the Migos album, dude. I mean, if your dad was still alive, you'd probably be listening to the new Migos album, or no, not new Migos album, but you'd be listening to the Migos, which is what Future, the group.
I give up.
The
Are we
Future
gonna like
that grew.
record? What? Are we gonna record? Is this what are we doing?
What do you mean, are we gonna record?
I know, but like, should
What
we
do you
be?
think's been happening?
Should you like set us up? Are you gonna put us into like a frame scenario? Like
Take off dive. Take off is dead.
I don't know who that is.
Take off dive. You can't listen to the new Migos album. There is no new Migos album. He's bad. No, have you ever heard the songs like "Walk It Like I Talk It"? Walk it like I talk it. You know?
Never in my life.
Yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah, Mossy heard it.
Your dad would have loved.
You know what? Probably. Probably. You're absolutely right. He probably would have loved it.
Your dad would have fucking loved the Migos one.
Thanks, Dad. Shout out to Dad. Miss you, Dad. I'm sure he'd be proud of me right in this moment. He'd be like, yeah, that's my daughter.
Absolutely fucking crazy for Ice Spice.
I feel bad, man. This is messed up.
You know, I got hit on at the grocery store for the first time in like a really long time. And it was, of course, it was on a Saturday, which I actually find interesting because literally like the week before that, I saw a TikTok about how all the hot people go to grocery stores on Saturday at 4 p.m. And that's like how you should go to grocery stores to like, you know, pick up people. I don't know.
My parents call me their disabled boy.
My grandma was like, Lauren, you better get married in a church. Your cousin didn't get married in a church and that's why she's divorced. But my grandma's dead now, so I can get married wherever I want.
I never had no family member impose anything on me ever.
That's actually crazy. My entire life was like things that they wanted me to do, and like all of my interests were what my mom wanted me to do and what like my mom wanted my life to be like.
I can tell.
My family's pretty chill.
What the fuck? Your family's pretty chill? Damn.
They're pretty chill.
I'm so jealous.
I don't have any crazy bad family things to tell you. I literally I don't have like any.
I mean, my family's like nice. Like most of them are really nice, except for my mom.
Only thing I know, my grandpa on my dad's side died when I was like a really little kid, and my dad would always tell me, he was like, yeah, he wouldn't have liked you.
What? Imagine telling your kid, yeah, your grandpa wouldn't have liked you.
For a while. And
That's
he's
so
like, yeah,
funny.
no, he would have called you a fucking hippie for that. But unfortunately, he died before I got to hear that. I kind of would have.
Damn, that's unfortunate.
Him insult me, but you know, it's fine.
You're a
That's
hippie
fair.
loser. Do you feel better?
Yeah, no, that's exactly
Thank
what
you,
I wanted to
Easy.
hear.
I'm the
You're a
grandfather of
fucking
everyone.
To be fair, I didn't know who Grimace was until the Grimace Shake, which, that's like great McDonald's
Lauren,
advertising.
you're just uncultured. Okay, you're just fucking uncultured.
He kind of looked like Wembley.
Who is?
Do you remember
Shut the fuck up.
that's
I
what the
should
Avatar guy.
literally strangle you. I should fucking strangle you and leave your body in a ditch on the
Do you not remember the dance?
Shut the
We should have
fuck
bring it back.
Shut up! Shut up about Wembley!
Thank you for having me on. I'm going to a ball game. I'll see.
Go to a ball game?
She going to a ball game.
I mean, do you need me to? I can stay.
You go to the ball game. You go have fun at the ball game. You have a great time at the ball game, Weezy. Have fun.
I will. I'm gonna send you my favorite Metro Boomin, Future, and Migos songs. You should.
Thank
listen to.
you
They're
so
really
much.
good.
I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Holy
Metro
shit.
Boomin, made it boom.
It stopped.
I'm not having fun. I'm not having fun right now at all. Oh my.
Try one of the other colors.
Oh, this is not fun. What the fuck? The only thing my parents ever forced me to do was they forced me to play soccer. They're like, you're too good at soccer. You're too good at soccer. You can't not play soccer in high school. I was like, I fucking hated soccer. So they forced me to do tryouts, and then I intentionally bombed the tryouts.
That's okay. That's funny, actually. Holy shit.
Not it again.
I remember like going from piano practice and then changing into my leotard in the car to go to ballet. And I remember like crying because of my ballet teacher telling me I was too fat and everything. Even though like I was really skinny, and I got like really scared thinking I was fat because of that.
You know what I did as a kid? I played a lot of Halo 3. Like a lot of Halo 3. Like
I wasn't allowed to play too many video games.
You know, there's so many areas in life I've gotten myself at this point that I would not have been able to do if I was in the military. Just different life experiences. If I was still in the military, I think there would have been a lot of benefits to it, but ultimately it wasn't what I wanted to do. Interestingly enough, the one person that was actually sympathetic and understood was my grandfather. He was infantry in Vietnam. He was a Marine. He was the only one who understood, like the only one that supported me through it. He was like, yeah, I don't blame him. Maybe he didn't really understand fully the nature of why, because I never really straight up told him. But just from what he heard, he was like, yeah, you know, it's not the end, you know. And he had it rough. You know, being in infantry in Vietnam as a Marine, what worse is there to be in that time? A lot of people maybe don't even feel affected by it. I knew a couple guys that got, you know, discharged, didn't really bother them that much. They just moved on like nothing happened. Some guys were the entire life was derailed, but it's just it's pretty crazy that everyone's story is different. You know, it's just kind of a weird thing. If you ever meet anybody else that's gone through this, they probably have a different perspective. At the time when I reached out to you, I mean, I had watched a lot of your videos in the military, and I was like, you know, a lot of big perspective people don't have is like seeing what happens when you get discharged. And so I was like, in a lot of ways it'd be kind of therapeutic to talk about it, because you're probably the only person that knows as much about these details, because I've, you know, not talked a lot about it. Just people were not very like interested in hearing the story. You know, not that I was willing to tell the whole thing, but a lot of people weren't. Even people like my girlfriend, like when I came home, I remember she was just like, you know, she was like, you're different. Like, that's what she told me. She's like, you're different. You know, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. She wasn't supportive. And I kind of sympathized because I was, you know, I looked different. First of all, I was bald. I had probably only weighed like 120 pounds at most, if not less than that. I was a completely different person. And so even to this day, she's told me she regrets that. So it's, you know, that has also kind of helped me. Very few people that have come back and told me like, yeah, you know, we probably should have handled things a little bit better. I think just based off of symptoms, because the majority of my family has mental health issues. My brother, my sister, and my mom in particular all are officially diagnosed. But I just never want to say something without having like solid evidence, especially when it comes to stuff like that. Like just me saying I have depression. I don't know, what if I don't? But do I think I do? I think I do. I do think I do. But I've tried to make the best of my situation with what I have. A lot of, you know, again, over the years, a lot of it's been me telling myself maybe I didn't. Maybe I just, you know, said the wrong things, or was just sad and not actually depressed, or maybe I, you know, I've just not been taking care of myself the way I should. It's just a complete mix going back and forth between my perspective of, you know, my mental health issues. Before I make any solid kind of statements about it, I would like to be diagnosed to some kind of extent. It sounds messed up to say, but there's just so much stuff going on. Like I'm too busy to, you know, sit down, and it's a bad thing. Like you should never not have time to take care of yourself. But, you know, I'm just pushing through, and I think some people are able to do that. Maybe I'm one of them, or maybe I really do need to go to therapy or something like that. There's just a lot of I've done a lot of thinking on it, and it's just my perspective nearly changes every day on what I think. I go in phases between thinking like maybe I was just being dramatic, to times where I was like, dude, like I really needed help. Like I really shouldn't have done that. Like I said, it changes all the time.
If you could tell everybody in the world one thing, what would it be?
It would be to listen to people's stories. I mean, I know it's kind of a generic, if not broad thing to say, but there's a lot of reasons you can hate somebody, but if you just listen to like their perspective of why the things that they do and the reason why they believe it, a lot of times you'll realize they're pretty similar to you. A lot of people I don't like or that I haven't liked in my life, very similar to me. There's a saying that's like you're a lot more similar to your enemies than you think. It's true. And I think that would have been a very valuable thing for me to have. Like these people that, you know, have all these assumptions about my discharge. Maybe there's a lot of more similar qualities between me and them than they think. And a lot of times you just gotta listen. Instead of being opinionated, you just gotta listen to what other people have to say. Yeah, thank you for listening. But yeah, this has been great. Thanks for bringing me here. See you tomorrow.
I wanna go to the moon. Don't leave me so soon. Don't leave me so soon. How can I get through? What's the deal with being goaded off the sauce? Kramer, you can't go to Yodi Land.
That was not. Was that supposed to be Elaine? Who the fuck was that?
No, that was Jerry Seinfeld.
That's not what he sounds like.
What are you talking about?
He sounds more like this. Oh, it's me, freaking Jerry. Does anybody know where my sign fell?
Jerry, you want to hear me say the N-word at a comedy club?
No, Kramer. I don't fucking fuck with you anymore, Kramer. Now I'm gonna put one in the chamber. Yeah! Wouldn't that be badass if that happened in real life? No, it wouldn't. National tragedy.
No, it wouldn't. Dude, Kramer died.
Oh, I'm about to shoot Raphael in his bitch ass.
I'm sure my dad would have liked Migos.
It's good to hear.
Of course, yeah.
He would have loved Culture Ring. Donna the Kanye album. Donna
I know Kanye.
Yeah.
What?
She dead, dude.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Shout out to Kanye's mom.